stepping in and putting them in check, because that's what they're trying to do with all this. I want to play this clip right here, and I'm sure at some point we have Bree on here. I'm going to bring her on in just a second, but I'm going to play this real quick, and then I'm going to have her react to this as well.
Good chance that President Trump feels like he is under threat. We're not allowed to ask, basically, was there any linkage between what took place with Asif Merchant, who was recruited by the Iranians to come to America to recruit proxies to kill President Trump. The FBI put a confidential human source at him. All this is public now. This is all out there in the open. And he's arrested, and then 2 days later, a sniper takes a shot at President Trump.
Stop. Here we go. You see what he does here? This is a trick for, you ever see that Bane Batman movie? For the uninitiated. This is a trick people use on the uninitiated. They know people because the human mind is desperate to create patterns. It's how you survive. The human mind doesn't think in segmented moments. It tries to create pattern. Your mind will actually fill in blanks in your visual field when you're reading at times, because what you're seeing and stimulated with is not what's happening in your brain. That's a fact. Again, if you have any background in neuropsychology, you can look it up. What you perceive as reality is not what's really going on with the light and auditory stimulation and all of that. Human beings create patterns out of information. It's how you stay alive. So what people do to try to sucker the uninitiated is they use correlation and they infer causation from it.
All right, look, who has been doing this where they throw out a ton of information at you, they create a correlation that, by the way, the correlation doesn't even exist, and then they infer causation. Like, this is what Candace Owens has been doing for the last 6 months. She's giving you no facts. All she's doing is throwing random information at you, and then at the end of it, she comes to a conclusion or suggests a conclusion, and then her mindless lemmings that are down there in her chat, like, oh, this is great. She solved the case. Gave you no evidence. Nothing about it's logical. But again, information overload, creating a correlation that doesn't exist, and then also a causation that doesn't exist. And that is what she's been doing for the last 6 months. And it's effective. And I do think, and I was talking about this in the space today, I think that the people that are behind Candace Owens, I think they've been shocked by how effective it is. And now we see Tucker Carlson jumping in. We see Megyn Kelly jumping in, and now Joe Kent. And we're going to kind of prosecute the case against everything that Joe Kent is telling you. And Dan does a great job in this. We'll play a little bit more of this, and then I want to make sure that we get a good introduction to Green Beret Nat Time and Bree Dale in just a moment.
Now, again, earlier in this episode, Joe's out there telling you how Iran's not a threat. Now he's implying, you just heard it. Guys, did we not hear it? That this Iranian plot to kill President Trump through Asif Merchant, who was just convicted, by the way, a Pakistani, that is a true story. We were deeply involved in that case, the FBI. It's like, well, it was just a couple of days before Butler. Now, if you're uninitiated into how this works, you're like, wow, this guy must know something. These two things are connected. That's incredible. They have to be connected, and somebody's hiding it. Gee, what he said in the beginning, President Trump's scared. His words, brother, not mine. President Trump's scared. The gatekeepers are keeping stuff from him. He should be scared. The gatekeeper. I'm keeping stuff. So just to be clear, President Trump is my personal friend, has been for a long time. He's Cash's friend, Ratcliffe's friend. Pam, Todd, Pete, everybody knows President Trump personally. And they all have access to this. And we're all hiding from President Trump a plot for the Iranians to kill him through a kid in Butler. We're all hiding it from him because... Wait, I got it. I didn't even... What? Come on, guys. You got to know who did it. The Jews. It's got to be the Jews. It's by $7,000. We all got it, I guess. And suckers fall for this. Of course, there's no actual evidence.
No, there is no actual evidence to any of this stuff. And look, I I can buy people. Like I'll accept the fact that there are people that are going to be critical of Israel. I've been critical of Israel, and you're wary of another country, right? Not all our interests don't always align. I can buy into that 100%. But where they show their hand is when they want to sit here and pretend that Iran is not a threat. When they want to sit here and pretend that Muslims and Islam itself isn't a threat to the United States, and they hold water for these people. Like, if you're an honest broker of information, you come to me, you're like, Gary, you know what? I think Israel is a threat to us for whatever reason. You can enumerate all of them. And then you turn around and say, you know what? But I will also concede that Iran has been a threat to us for 47 years. They've killed lots of Americans. But that's not what they do. They're like, oh my God, there was a potentially a Tomahawk missile that hit a girls' school that was in a military compound, and now America are war criminals. Like, that's where they go with this. I mean, they just spew this Islamic propaganda. I mean, they might as well be Hezbollah themselves. So anyways, let's go ahead and bring in Green Beret Nap Time and Bree. Thank you guys for showing up. Let me make sure I get a view here. Get everybody on the screen here. So Bree, if you would already know Green Beret Nap Time, I'm still going to have Chase introduce himself. Bree, if you will, take a minute, just kind of introduce yourself, let everybody know who you are. And by the way, folks, the links down to all of their socials are down in the description. Make sure you go give them a follow. They're doing great work out there.
Hi, folks. It's so great to meet you. Hopefully I don't have a lag, because it looks like I might have a little bit of a lag, but my name is Bree Dale. I am I was the Daily Wire Rome correspondent. I covered the Vatican for 5 years now, back in the United States, and I'm a contributor, investigative journalist. I also work for the Department of War in IT project management and AI transformation management. And I've been covering the Vatican, so Catholic impact, but my background is actually as a surface warfare officer. I served for 6 years, 6 years. Went through a lot of operations. First tour was Odyssey Dawn, when we were dealing with Libya, and drove the ships and fired the weapon systems. And my second tour, I wrote after my second tour, I wrote the doctrine for special forces using amphibious ships as forward staging bases, something that they are doing right now in Fourth Fleet. So I'm a bit jealous. I'd like to see how my doctrine is actually going into play and seeing some of those after actions. Maybe I will. Nice to join you guys.
No, thanks for coming, Bree. Chase, let everybody know
what's up, man. How you doing?
Thanks for coming on, bud.
Yeah, man. Yeah, always a pleasure to come on and chat with you, man. So a lot of craziness going on, so it's even more important right now.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, I kind of laid out the big picture of what I see happening, and you guys kind of, Chase, if you will, take it first. Just kind of give your perspective of what's going on with all of this.
I mean, I think some of this, it's obviously an op now, but not all of it was an op to begin with. I think you have to go all the way back to kind of when you see some of the stuff that happened with Alex Jones, and you see, the banning of him and then him starting his own little network. People love the Fringe, right? So then like Nick Fuentes is kind of the same kind of character. And no one thought that they, like Nick Fuentes is this tiny little dude, like a little bit gay, and like no one, like he is kind of funny, which I guess is what gets him like some followers and stuff.
Yeah.
But no one thought it was going to be like anything big. And then all of a sudden he blows up. Once you try to cancel someone enough, you end up just lighting the flame under the fire for all the Fringe people. And then they realized, you know what, these people can like gain massive crowds. And then if we can use some of these other people and capture this stuff, then we can actually really change. We can make people believe things that aren't true. And we can set the stage and narrative build any way that we want to accomplish whatever we want to do. And so whether, at one point, maybe that was get Trump elected for 2024. But then, after Trump's elected and some things didn't go exactly the way that some people wanted it to go, now they've redirected it. Now it's back, it's this, we got to destroy the right type of thing because they didn't do everything they wanted. It's classic populism. And then it's just the use of propaganda on a massive scale. Honestly, I've talked to people about this a lot, but it's the biggest propaganda push I've ever seen in my life. It's insane.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with that. Let me throw this up there, just kind of reinforce one of the things that you're saying. Let me pull down the stage. Boom. Remove. So this right here is somebody that was tracking everything that was going on in this particular messaging that was happening the moment that Tucker Carlson and Joe Kent's interview went live. The trigger quote, the Israelis drove the decision with clipped and posted across hundreds of accounts almost simultaneously, not after it trended, during the broadcast. Real breaking news takes time to spread organically. This had a running start. And you can kind of see what's happened here. This is foreign state media, RT, Hispan TV, Sputnik, MAGA dissident amplifiers, pro-Palestinian Islamic networks. These are all people that are working together. And the one common thread that I think Bree and I, and hopefully Chase as well, will get into a little bit later in other episodes, is start kind of identifying that there is a very clear Russian link. Now, that doesn't exclude other operatives like China or Iran or other Islamic countries, but there's clearly a Russian link that's pushing all of this behind Candace Owens, behind Megyn Kelly, Tucker Carlson, all of it. And we keep seeing that showing up time and time again. Bree, what's your overall take on that?
So a few things, with my background, I knew the other side of PSYOPs, where we were pushing out information while we're active duty. I think you guys do as well. And so you are able to pick up very quickly the patterns that maybe most people overlook, maybe because they just don't have a lot of time, right? To say, oh, I heard that before. Where did I hear that before? Where did I hear those talking points before? The problem is that when you start to see a pattern, especially for those of us who've been in the service and who have worked in intelligence, you start to say, okay, there's a human factor in this. Of course, when we deal with something like MAGA, we're going to deal with a large tent and fissures in that large tent. But it's been my assessment from the beginning, Gary, that MAGA was the existential threat to the Russians and the Chinese and the Iranians. MAGA, the unitive factor of the right versus the left. The left was captured. So they began a plan, and I believe it began with QAnon. They began a plan of infiltration and seeing where the fissures were. Where did conspiracies go and where did they lie? And they, the Chinese in particular, during COVID, used TikTok in a way of experimentation. How far could they push for narrative forming? We saw that specifically with the psychological ops, I believe, which was the trans Tifa / transition / using your pronouns. I believe all of that was an operation to see how far they could push the psychological and moral boundaries of the United States. Another TikTok op was, I'm not sure if you guys saw it, but there was a big TikTok move to try to dissuade young people into getting married. And they did a particular op multiple times using deep fakes. So they used Chinese models. They deep faked them to look Anglo. And they had a young girl. It looked like she was reaching out like she was being proposed to. She was putting on the ring. And as soon as she put on the ring, she saw her life flash in front of her. And being married meant she was going to have to be a slave to the kitchen, slave to the child, like all of these things. This went a super, super viral on TikTok. And then she took off the ring and it showed that she would have fun. And then she put the ring back on, slave, right? The nucleus, we know with critical theory, the nucleus of the family was a target point in the United States by the Chinese. So when I started to see this propaganda being played, I started to watch closer to what was going to be the next fissure, because we saw some of that work, but not so much, Gary. The concern was when I started to see the narratives being formed on the right, specifically on Israel and the Jews. When I started to see the normalization of this, I said, okay, this sounds very much like supersessionism. This sounds like Russian Orthodox. That's when I discovered Alexander Dugin.
Yeah, and like I said, I want to do at least a full episode with you, just going over who Alexander Dugin is, his background, and who his current connections are with, because I think it'll surprise a lot of people. But, Chase, that's one thing that you've talked about quite a bit on your channel, and that is, how they're using these 100-year-old tropes and this messaging to create this fissure with, evangelicals, Christians, and Jews, and it's a message that sells. But you've done a good job exposing that.
Well, it actually all got, when you were talking earlier just a bit ago about, you know, the demoralization campaign, the confusion campaign, that's all classic Russian propaganda. I mean, from the Soviets back, they used that. Huh?
Identity politics, just causing division.
Yeah. They're flooding the zone. They're flooding the market with so many different things that people can't keep up. And then they have trusted voices, or what you would call like key players. And those people are going to be pushing the narratives that they really want to be focused on. So you have all this noise, and then you're hearing certain things on repetition. And then as it starts getting repeated, then from that point on, they don't even have to do anything anymore. They don't even have to have that. Right. They can, the key players can move on to the next thing, the next stop. And that narrative is going to keep running, and people are going to just keep sharing it and sharing it and sharing it, because people love controversy. People love a juicy background character that's doing all the bad stuff. Because like, why do you watch James Bond movies? You know, you don't watch them to be like, well, there's some guys robbing a bank over there, we're gonna go save them, right? Or stop them, and then it's over. And it's like, dun, dun, dun. Like they want a bad guy, right? And so propaganda, it works perfectly, because it gives everybody a bad guy that they all can blame for all of the woes, right? They discount all the negative from any other group of people or whatever. It doesn't, none of that actually matters, or any other nation or anything. It doesn't matter. They just hold this one group of people or this one country accountable that to a standard that nobody else can be held to. And then they deflect every attempt to try to prove them wrong by calling you a shill or calling you a bootlicker or like whatever, whatever it is, like, oh, you're bought by the propaganda. When in reality, like, you're the one that literally fell for this propaganda that was made for illiterate Russian peasants in 1903. Like, that's what it was made for. It was created by a Tsarist Russia news company that helped with one of the first pogroms. Like, it's insane that, like, people don't know that because they don't know history, and then they can't differentiate what's real or not real because they have no clue what even actually happened in the world. So
you're talking about the protocols of the Elders of Zion. Yeah, a lot of people don't know the history behind that. Yeah, I mean, Yuri Bezimov also talked about that, Gary. Like he if people haven't watched, if they haven't taken a chance to watch about an hour's worth of an interview by Yuri Bezmenov, who was the really the senior most defected USSR KGB intelligence agent that we received. There were a few, and he was one of them. He came out on record and discussed, and he talked about disinformation ops, demoralization ops, what the plan of the USSR was. Literally, you can listen to his entire plan of what was being targeted during the 1920s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, all the way up to the 80s, really was being when it was propagated, but really 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, and 60s. When you listen to what he did, it is textbook what has occurred. The result of it is textbook. And he even said back then that the Russians were shocked that within such a short amount of time, Americans were doing the work for them. To me, that just shows how fragile not only our democracy and republic is, how fragile our moral backbone is in the United States. If we can be so easily manipulated by what I call crisis pornography, the addiction to crisis.
Well, and going back to what you said earlier, that MAGA was clearly identified by Russians and the Chinese as the biggest threat to them, period. Now, the question is, what is the major voting bloc within it? The most solid voting bloc, the most monolithic voting bloc within that, and that is Christian conservatives. So if I'm the Chinese, all I got to do is sit back, or the Russians, like, okay, we gotta divide and conquer. This is standard practice. Now, how do we create division within Christian conservatives? And now we start, pitting Zionists against non-Zionists. We start, Catholics against evangelicals, which is exactly what we're seeing play out, and it's working. And these are people that are saying, hey, you know what? The Jews are the problem, and unfortunately, there's a percentage within that demographic that are susceptible to that. And then on top of that, these are also the people that their sons and daughters spent the last 20 years fighting wars, because that's who fights them, conservatives and their families for the most part. So Now they're war wary, and they're also very susceptible to the idea like, hey, you know what? He's just starting. We're going to compare. We're going to have the false equivalency of this issue with Iran that should be addressed. And we're going to compare that to Iraq and Afghanistan when there's no comparison. If anything, I would say that addressing this now in the way that Donald Trump is currently handling it is going to prevent us from getting into a forever war 5, 10, 15 years down the road from now. Like, we have to intervene at some points. And like, we can't just draw in all our military strength to continental United States and be like, you know what? We're just going to worry about us. That's not how the world
Gary,
works.
it's lessons learned. I mean, those of us who've served, you've served, I've served, Green Beret at that time. I don't remember your name, but you served as well. Jake, like, look, like the at the end of the day, we've all served. We're the first to say we don't want a war because we don't want to go over. But if we're going to fight a war, we fight a lethal war. We want it to be brutal. We want it to be short. That is what we want. We don't want to have to tiptoe around, the political landscape and nation build. That's not what we're made for. And that's one thing that I have to say. I'm very grateful for Secretary of State or Secretary of War Pete Hegseth, because he has come out and said, we are creating a Department of War that is going to be lethal. Its entire mission is to go over, fight the enemy, kill the enemy, and end this conflict. And the point is that every single one of us who fought over in that AOR, every single one of us would say, I think we've lost our brothers over there. Like, what the hell are we still doing over there? Why did we not do this 10 to 15 years ago? Why did we not end the enemy who was funding all of these so-called, Islamist militant groups? We know who was funding them. We know who was creating the IEDs. We know who was doing this back then. And it causes those of us who've lost brothers and sisters since then, many of them after they returned, to be, I think, take a personal affront when people are like, well, we don't want a forever war. For the love of God, we're not fighting a forever. How long have we been in this conflict? 12 days, 30 days? Like, what are we talking about?
Yeah, I think it's sensationalism. It's just the panicans out in force. Go ahead, Chase.
Right.
I think you made some really good points there. And I think one of the things that people are missing, especially all these veterans that are like coming out against this, they're automatically comparing what is happening right now and then making it seem like it's going to be exactly like Iraq or Afghanistan was. Most of us are not for that, right? From a veteran standpoint, nobody wants a forever war because we were stuck in this little hybrid thing where we're supposed to be like police and military at the same time. There's no clear directives. There's no clear way to win. Well, I think what Trump has already established is that he's came in this term and he is determined to use the military to its full extent. And he's allowing the people, the decision makers in the military and the combatant commanders and then down the commanders on down, he's allowing them all to prosecute wars or conflicts, whatever you want to say, or each mission even, in a way that is the best way to win for that mission. So Venezuela, for example, did we start a forever war there? No, we went in one night, used tier 1 forces and overwhelming force, took the president of an entire country and his wife and pulled them out of the country. And now he's going to stand trial in America. And that's the way
I really want to read the after actions for those. It's just
right. It's amazing.
Like,
but
what?
So that's what frustrates me right now is all these veterans that like I looked up to and like these guys that, they have big accounts and you would think that like they understand what we should want. And that's what he's giving us. He's giving all of us that, like the thing that we wanted in Iraq, the thing that we wanted in Afghanistan was give us a clear goal and let's do it. And then let's get out and let's do like change the ROEs to where we're effective fighting force and we can win this war. And then let's be done with it and go and move on. And hopefully the Middle East will heal then without having the number one state sponsor of terror destroying the whole region. Right. And so why are we having to fight with these people? We have to fight with the left already. And so now we're having to fight with the people on our own side because they don't just understand basic concepts. And that's where we're at right now. That's what really frustrates me.
Well, it's just too easy to smuggle in some of these things when we're a nation traumatized by a government that has lied to us many times. The Biden administration is a great example of this, whether we're talking about COVID, the 2020 election, January 6th, whatever it is. Like and again, this is something that easily our adversaries identify. So they know, like, hey, the American people don't trust the government. Doesn't matter if it's the government they just elected in and replaced all of the deep state for the most part. Like Donald Trump is not Joe Biden, but they see that. Then they say, hey, you know what? They're very wary of war. They understand that. Hey, you know what? They're also tired of us constantly being out and about, and they want they're predisposed to an isolationist idea, which is exactly what China and Russia want. They would want like nothing better for us to just pull in everything. Like, hey, you know what? We're just gonna maintain here, and that way you guys can run amok, including Iran, including the Islamists that are conducting terror acts all over the world. So that's just where we're at, and we have been primed. Unfortunately, our government is complicit in it. But to sit here and say that Donald Trump is the same as Biden is nuts. To sit here and say that Venezuela, which we heard all the panicants talking about Venezuela. You guys remember that before we went to Venezuela? Like, oh my God, another forever war. Look what happened. And then to say that Iran is the same as Iraq and Afghanistan. These are false comparisons, and it's like we got to smarten up.
I'd also like to add in that they are placing a timetable now on the United States and on the president and on our military that doesn't actually have to exist, right? So they are pushing the issue and making it to where they have to do it as quickly as possible, which is going to increase risk and is going to increase the chances of something actually going wrong, because now they have to look at it and they have to say, like, we only have like 30 days. We only have like 45 days, because then all of these influencers are going to keep pushing the same message over and over and over again. They're going to push the populace against us even more than they already are. So that in turn also hurts our military and hurts just American exceptionalism on the global scale. And they don't even realize that. And so that's why I'm getting frustrated with these people. And they're like, you're crashing out on people. I'm like, dude, I'm telling you, you're being an idiot. And then you're like, well, it's all because of the Jews. And I'm just like, dude, what?
Jason, one of the things that really also pissed me off, to be quite clear, is that Tucker Carlson's inference it's just like last week, an inference that Donald Trump calling for, like unconditional surrender, i.e. the IRGC is to lay down its arms. There is no quarter. We are not going to be playing this political game. That he would dare to hint that would allow for, or that would be a message sent to the IRGC that the United States is giving the green light to our allies and our troops to go in and rape and pillage. And to think that this man, who has millions of followers, would stand on his soapbox, a man who's never served a day in his life, who comes with a silver spoon in his hand. His father was an honorable service to this country in the CIA. To think that he would turn his rancor against those of us who have served our veterans, that should have burned him then. I don't know why people who are active duty would have sat down and said that's an excusable statement.
Yeah. Again, it's because people are so afraid of getting into another forever war. And I understand it, but you got to wake up a little bit, folks, and understand that there's a huge difference. But I agree with you. I was completely outraged by that. And he does that time and time again. What I want to do, I got a couple of more of these Bongino clips I want to play, and I'll have you guys react to, because I think he hits some really key points on this as well.
That's true.
Hey, give me a second. I got to run. The baby's waking up, and I'll be right back.
No worries. Go ahead.
The irony is, of all the foreign countries I met with, I didn't meet with anyone from Israel. It doesn't matter. If you're a sucker, this is what he's playing you. Joe is playing you for a sucker. President Trump, man, could have been killed by the Iranians. I thought the Iranians weren't a threat. No. I'm telling what I'm saying. Well, what are you saying? He goes on later in the interview to say, by the way, oh, there's a fatwa, an Iranian fatwa against developing nuclear weapons. Number one, that's totally fake. It's been debunked 1,000 times. But even assume what he's telling you is true about a fatwa against nuclear development. Assume that it's not. Assume it is. Then he goes on 5 minutes later to tell you how the Iranians refuse to dismantle their nuclear program. Joe, what story is it, bro? I thought you just said there was a fatwa against it. Now you're telling us they're still developing it? We're going to cover the gatekeeper narrative and how you know who is on the side of truth and how you know who is not. When you see the gatekeeper narrative to Trump surface, you know they're full of shit. Second, we're going to cover the hidden knowledge scam, that you're out there with some hidden set of knowledge that magically everyone around Donald Trump, including Donald Trump himself, they don't have. It's insane, but you have it. And then when you ask them about it, they say, I'm just asking questions. Well, do you actually know something? Can you say it? No, but I have it. Well, say it. No, but I have it.
You know, that's one thing that really blew me away. We watched the interview with Joe Kent live the other night, Bree, and the complete lack of evidence. I mean, it was literally all opinions. And what it came down to was, you know what, this administration, here I am in the NCTC. All right. My job is counterterrorism, but I have a disagreement with the foreign policy of this president, the way that they're conducting war, everything outside of my lane. Now, like, I have no jurisdiction whatsoever, but I got a lot of opinions about it, but I'm not going to provide you any evidence whatsoever. I'm just going to tell you, hey, this is what I think happened. Like, it was crazy to me that he provided no actual evidence.
And on appeal to authority, which is a big thing right now. I brought this up with regards to Candace Owens and saying, well, as a Catholic today, right? And why that appeal to authority is not quite accurate to her current state. In a similar situation, when you appeal to authority of your position as a director of a intelligence agency, people don't really know too much about what you did. First off, to Kent directly, if he's watching the show, which maybe he is, but to Kent directly, it was your job to fight terrorism, to counter terrorism. Under your watch, we had multiple terrorist attacks. That's on you, buddy. Secondly, when you go to the Catholic for Catholics conference and you said that you were hoping that one day you'd be in a position of authority to be able to do something about ensuring that men and women who you send, which you're not sending, but who you send overseas to die in a foreign land will never take place under his watch. You already you're experiencing to us that you have preconceptions. You have preconceptions in a position that you chose to take. You chose to take that position, Joe Kent. No one forced you in that position. You offered your services. And so now I have questions to whether or not this was a whole plan all along. Did you plan to make a huge statement? And did you plan to risk the integrity of intelligence if you were leaking to individuals, as has been alleged? There are questions that I have that I have yet to be able to answer. And it all goes toward your integrity, Joe Kent.
Well, the thing that struck me is that you don't have to be a genius to spot that this entire thing was constructed as a publicity stunt. Number one, the insane, just disgraceful way that in the statements that he put in his resignation. And then on top of that, instead of just handing it to the president, or really he should have been handing that to Tulsi Gabbard, not the president, but he went straight to the president, which is fine. But then he immediately puts that out on X. Like, how unprofessional is that? If you have a problem with your chain of command and you decide that, hey, you know what, I can no longer in good conscience participate in this, then get out of it.
Yeah.
Like, you knew what you were supposed to. And by the way, you're upset about things that aren't even in your lane.
Yeah, in your purview.
You could have the satisfaction of sitting there concentrating on counterterrorism, making sure that we have no terrorist attacks here on the homeland, That's what you could be doing. You could walk away from this administration and say, you know what? I wasn't involved with foreign policy. I wasn't involved in Iran. What I did was I put every second of every day making sure that I kept this country safe. But he can't say that because that's not what he did. He decided to interject himself and pretend that he is, the Secretary of State, and he's not.
What's concerning to me is that he's, 20 plus years in service, protecting the home front. So the terrorist attacks that we saw on a regular basis overseas would not hit the American people. His entire job, and people are going to say, oh no, the FBI is responsible. If you are the director of counterintelligence, you are engaging with the FBI and all other agencies to ensure that you are countering terrorism and foreign intelligence operations overseas so that they don't come to the home front. You failed in your mission, Joe Kent.
Yeah.
And we have dead bodies on the home front to point to on this. And to me, for you, yeah, go ahead.
No, I was just going and now it seems like it was because he was too interested in other things outside of his lane. I mean, that's what it looks like to me.
Right. I think you're correct on this. Now, my concern is the claims on the leaking. I don't know how you can look at 20 plus years of service in some of the most dangerous areas of the world, honorable service, and you could place that in the toilet and flush it down the drain, flush it down the toilet for an operation that has now ended your career in this industry, in the industry of intelligence and military support. The thing that you created, the thing that you chose to do, which is, like you said, an operation, a stunt, and a publicity stunt. But if there is any truth to taking classified information or unverified in intelligence information and leaking that to the press, I mean, I don't know what to say. Like it. How do you do that? How do you do that?
I want you to. We're going to cover that here in just a minute. I got some additional clips to kind of address that. So hold your thoughts on that because it's a super important part of all this.
Oh, no one else has it but you? No, but I have it. Again, but will you say it? Where I hit this, and I'll tie it to the gatekeeper narrative. Check this out.
Sean, this is cowardly by these people who you mentioned who are doing this. Because what they do is they call out Donald Trump's entire cabinet and circle of friends and advisors, but they never call out Trump because they know they'll get crushed like a bug. They know it. And then the grift dries up. Then the money dries up. So what they do is because they have no balls, you say it again, no balls, grow a pair. They don't want to take him on directly because he will crush them. So they go about attacking everyone else. They do this all the time. And I call this the Donald Trump has no agency theory. Like Donald Trump doesn't have the ability to think for himself.
I'm going to fast forward to get through some music there. But that's exactly
it's just right. Not that smart.
Sitting here and pretending that Donald Trump doesn't have any agency and that he's just going to be led by the news by Bibi Netanyahu is just absolutely
stupid. And he's sitting up there on this perch in the White House and is being misled by a bunch of people. Now, the irony of this is that these very same people, the overwhelming majority of them, upwards of 99% of them plus, have never worked for Donald Trump or had a cup of coffee in the White House. On Tucker's show with Joe Kent was just disgusting. He is a liar, and it pains me to tell you that. This video is about 3 minutes long. It's a snippet, but it's interesting how many lies. You were part of it. You're part of the conspiracy. Why not just out it? You know something? Interesting how he knows something, just doesn't say it.
What kind of pressure does it require to get a president who campaigned against exactly this thing for 10 years to do exactly this thing? What does it take to do that?
I wish I knew definitively. I think there's two potentials, there's two schools of thought. I mean, one is the media echo chamber, the donors, the way the Israelis come in and kind of launder the information like I described previously.
You see the gatekeeper theory? That there and hidden knowledge all in the first, 20 seconds? What are we at? Is it the 20-second mark? In 20 seconds, you have it right. This is the mark for suckers. You fall for the hidden knowledge scam and the gatekeeper theory that you voted for Donald Trump, but he's not smart enough to know what's going on. Donald Trump does not know what's going on. Quote, the Israelis have laundered intelligence. I saw the intelligence. So did he. He's lying. That is a lie. That is a lie. We have our own very capable NSA, DIA, CIA, and a number of other members of the USIC that are perfectly capable of verifying and developing their own information. He's seen it. He's seen it. He's making, this is the Jews did it argument. That the Jews are the gatekeeper. Oh, the Israelis are gatekeeping information from Trump. Yeah, okay, Donald Trump, he's a sucker for that. I saw it. Don't tell me what. I don't give a shit that you have a podcast. I have a podcast. Have you ever worked for the government and actually read this intelligence to any of the other podcast bros or ma'ams out there? Have you ever seen it? No, period. You have not. Just answer the fucking question. You haven't seen any of it.
All right, just to reinforce that, this is Sarah Adams real quick, because this is what they want you to believe,
back in,
that
Right.
Mossad
when was that?
or whoever,
When was that? It was in the summer. We were in Dubai. We were flying home.
Mossad or whoever just
We could see
Oh,
the.
that
100%.
woman, that Mossad or whoever gives us this information and we just take it at face value. Chase, you've built target packets. I've done it multiple times. Like, do we just take intel from anyone's, even our own sources? Even our own sources. Let's say you get information through SODARs, through the agency or whatever else. Do you just take that information and be like, all right, we're going to run with this mission and we're going to go off of this? Our own people. Is that what we do?
No, that's not what we do, but we're kind of on our own in that realm. I mean, like Sean Ryan, like SEALs don't do that. I mean, like SEALs are usually operating out of like one of our SOTFs or something ran by, Green Berets, or ran at least by what would be, the AOB and up to a siege of SOTF. They don't understand that planning process, and they are given target packages that they don't really mess with, and then they just accept the mission or not. That's why Third Group turned down the lone survivor mission. That everything that ended up happening with that initially, because they were like, why would we do this? This is silly. Like there's no way to do this and be successful. So. Yeah, I agree.
Maybe a little bit of a bad example when it comes to those guys. But my point is that when we have intelligence coming in from our own sources, and we have plenty of sources on the ground there in Iran, we are vetting those sources, cross-referencing those sources. People are doing that. Like if the FBI gets information from the DIA, the CIA, whatever it is, like everybody's cross-referencing it and or comes in from Israel. We don't just take it at face value. We verify that information before we make it actionable. And this complete this false narrative, Sean Ryan, which I'm really sad to see him going down this anti-Israel path as well. I'm just glad to see that Sarah Adams completely shuts him down, even though he brings this up. So I'll play this, and then we'll be done with video clips for a while.
Do you think we should have bombed Iran back in when was that? When was that? It was in the summer. We were in Dubai. We were flying home, and we could see the
100%. So the thing is, and Iran knew this anyway. We were always going to bomb Iran when we found out they hit a certain level of enrichment, or they could get close to putting.
How did we find that out?
So,
because here's what's interesting to me, and I can't tell you who told me this, not on air. Not one of our intelligence agencies fucking said that they were enriching uranium. It was Mossad that came along and told us that.
Well, the first thing is you have to remember, Mossad has way better access in Iran than we do, just to be honest.
They do.
I have some better access in Iran than the U.S. government does. So we have to be really honest about that. The U.S. does have bad access in Iran, so they've always had to rely on other people. So that's no conspiracy. Think about it. That's Iran's greatest enemy. They have the best access here, just like we had the best access in Afghanistan when we were fighting the Taliban there, right? Because that was our enemy. So you have to view it in that lens, okay? So that's not a conspiracy.
Okay, but remember early on in Afghanistan when we would go into these villages and we would just take somebody's word for it? Oh, no, they're the bad guys, not realizing that these two groups have been battling each other for 1,000 years. I mean, so, you know what I mean?
That's not exactly what's happening in this case. So I will tell you, they were 100% enriching, and the U.S. government also has information that they're enriching. It's not just from Mossad. That's 100% not true. I mean, I even had access to a guy who had a family member in the program. The program is real. the program is much farther along than our government was aware. And I think they were caught a little bit with their pants down and realized it is more advanced than we thought. Remember, for like 15 years, they kept saying it's not advancing. Sorry, a program does not advance for 15 years. So our government just kept rolling the same assessment over into every year. And I really do think Trump saw it and said, holy crap. We are so behind in our assessment on this. We got to hit them now. I do believe they had enriched that much. I personally believe it. Remember, I used to work around in the CIA. So there's so many conspiracy things around Mossad. You have to look at the facts of the situation. They have been enriching very successfully. Luckily, we've been tripping them up over the years, over and over again. And Mossad has done it plenty, taking out their scientists and stuff. But the enrichment still slowly kept happening. People act like, what? For all that time, nothing improved. That doesn't make any sense. I mean, they brought in people, they brought in Libyan scientists after Gaddafi fell. They obviously always brought in Pakistanis. So they have the capabilities and always had it to make it happen. And so I think that's just the whole current anti-Israel propaganda.
All right. So two major points there. Number one, the idea that we're only going to act on whatever information that Israel gives us is just bullshit. Like, that's not what's happening. We have our own assets on the ground. We have our own intel on the ground. It is probably behind. The other part of that is to sit here and pretend that over the last 40 years that they're not advancing their nuclear program is just bonkers, folks. Look, they're advancing their nuclear program in parallel with their ballistic missile program. Do you think that's by accident? Like, that's crazy if anyone believes that. You guys go ahead.
Where did you go, Bree?
There we go. I think, am I muted? No, Sarah's awesome. I think she's amazing at her assessments, especially on certain assets on the ground she has in Iran. In fact, I would say that with my own contacts on the ground, there's claims, again, because I'm not on the ground, I won't say that I have corroborated these claims. Just like you were saying, when it comes to intel, you just want to get multiple sourcing and judge based off of that. But Chinese have been involved in this quite a bit over the last few years, in particular, in helping the enrichment. They have an interest in this as well, and in the development sector for their own uses. And so the fact that is, I concur with her that the intelligence was very strong on the Israeli side, because there's a joke in Israel within Mossad that for every Iranian or two Iranians on the ground, you had one Mossad agent. So you find that there are a lot of assets on the ground for years and years, and you could see that within the Iranian people themselves. They don't want to remain under this dictatorship, and to see that 30,000 plus were mowed down by this dictatorship for people who just want to be free and be able to live their lives. I have to just say, like, I think this should have been done years and years ago.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Chase, what do you got on that?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with Sarah. She actually knows what she's talking about, especially from that standpoint. The Mossad does have a far better intel network than we do in the Middle East. You're my baby. She's laughing at the TV right now. Yeah. She might, if she gets restless, I'll have to bring her up here and say hi. But I agree that Mossad has a far more a bigger intelligence apparatus in the Middle East, especially than we do, and especially they have more access to Iran. I mean, what access are we going to have there? We don't have any diplomatic relations with them. We have we have very little ties to that government after 1979. So, there's no consulates there. There's no embassies. And people don't even realize that those are kind of vital for intelligence to be taken. So otherwise you just have to get people under, into the country clandestinely. And then they have to just exist clandestinely all the time. They never have access and placement. They never have a cover. Whereas if there was an embassy or a consulate there, they would have more of that. So those gaps are what we're going to kind of rely on to get some fill-ins from the Mossad. But again, like you said earlier, the thought that Trump is being is being led by anybody else is insane to me. And what's crazy about all of this is that all of these people that were so diehard Trump, while before the 2024 election, they're all, MAGA this, we're all for Trump. He's going to do all these great things for us. And then he actually has done better this term than he did the first term, in my opinion. And they immediately flipped the second something didn't go exactly how they wanted it to go. There's something or just not even necessarily didn't go how they wanted to go. It didn't go how an influencer wanted it to go, right? It didn't go how a podcaster wanted it to go. So now they all have jumped in on this. Trump's evil, and the Epstein files didn't go how we wanted them to go. So that means that Trump's in on it, despite there being, the evidence of Trump in the Epstein files is pretty mild, honestly, if you actually looked at them. So that's kind of a mind-boggling to me, is just how quick the base, like parts of the base. Obviously, we're looking at the X and the social media stratosphere of it, as opposed to like real life. And like real life, I mean, when we go to the lake and like see the in-laws and all the people's there, that they aren't on X, they have Instagram to get recipes, like certain stuff like that. They don't look at all the stuff that we see every day. So they're like, yeah, we love Trump no matter what. Like, he's great. So it's just one of those, we see it, the worst end of it, but it still is a lot of people. And so it still is concerning.
Yeah. I'm trying to always, keep that in check between, what reality versus perception is, because I do think you're right. When we look at the polls, time and time again, I mean, the CNN poll just recently had that every single MAGA voter, still 100% of the MAGA voters they polled still were going to be voting for Trump. I don't know. But the fact is, I think there's overwhelming support. And then when you look at X, especially, it'll give you a perception that, we have most of the base turning against Trump. And I just don't think that's true. I do want to talk about him leaking when we're talking about Joe Kent. And I want to play this video real quick. And
you issued that resignation. You've been called weak by the president of the United States. You've been basically called a traitor by Lindsey Graham. You've been called an anti-Semite by Mitch McConnell, among others. And now there are reports that you're under a leak investigation, potentially accusing you of a felony that could put you in jail, even though you now are raising your two boys. You've remarried, but you're their sole biological parent still here. And I ask you now whether this was worth it.
I think it most certainly was, Megyn. I mean, the attacks against me are to be expected. The ad hominems from people like Mitch McConnell and Lindsey Graham at this point are fairly laughable. They don't want to discuss the issues. I want to discuss the issues. As for the leak allegations, I'm not concerned because I know I did nothing wrong. Of course, I am concerned because we've all seen the FBI and the full weight of the government come down on individuals who speak out. So that has me a little bit concerned, but I know the truth and the facts are on my side. So I think the important issues to address are what's at hand, why we're at war, and how we get out of the state that we're in right now.
Your boys have already lost one parent. I mean, the thought of this government for which you've been working, and the government and the country for which you've sacrificed so much, actually trying to put you in jail over an alleged leak after the number of leaks we've seen go unpunished over the past 10 years is truly outrageous, Joe. I mean, does it anger you? How does it make you feel?
It does anger me, but it's all just to be
my big takeaway from that is almost a lack of denial from leaking, but hey, justifying a leak. Hey, the truth is on my side. I have a real problem with that. And I don't care if we didn't prosecute other people in the Biden administration or even in the former Trump administration. If you leaked, you need to be held accountable. And Chase, you talked about this. I thought this was an excellent point that, we have no problem. All these podcasters have no problem. They don't care about the previous service of Tim Kennedy and, McPhee. Like, they'll pile on there if they have anything to do with, some stolen valor. But it's okay if they leaked classified information. No, I think we should all be held accountable no matter what your prior service is. That doesn't make us immune to actually following the law.
Right. He didn't say I didn't leak anything. He said I didn't do anything wrong. Yeah. So I think it's very important to actually, words mean things. He was a Green Beret. And how many times did you hear that in service, that words mean things, right? And be specific with what you're saying, because it's important, and it's important to the planning cycle. It's important to the esprit de corps. It's important to everything that has to do with the military, right? And all the stuff we're trying to accomplish. So he knows that. He knows words mean things. And he purposely said it that way. And then later on, she frames that there's a bunch of other leakers, and all these other leakers have gotten away with it. So why shouldn't you? So they're already setting the stage. And then also she threw in the little heartthrob that they've already lost one parent. They definitely can't lose another. Like just making now it's a moral thing. Like, oh, the U.S. government is,
it's an emotional.
Yeah, emotional appeal. The U.S. government is evil if they lock up this single parent, even though he's remarried. And she came in, what a year, maybe a little bit less before or after. After his wife was killed.
Almost a year after his first wife was killed.
Within a year, a little less than a year, according to what I've been able to say. And I have to say, for record, I'm not looking to attack her per se. She was an intelligence officer. I'm just presenting the facts to you that she is an artist. Her art is anti-war art. She's been very consistent in her anti-war stance on her social media. And I made the point the other day, I don't know if both of you are married, but when a wife and a husband, if you say that there's not any influence one way or the other by both when you're living in such close proximity, I beg to differ there. It seems to me, and I want to just reiterate that in this interview that Megyn Kelly did, I don't think this was an off-the-cuff interview, that he didn't know the questions or the forming of the questions before the interview took place. I think Megyn Kelly is, as a lawyer, knew exactly the questions to ask, and had his lawyers provided him. Maybe she even gave him advanced questions, but gave them the talking points to set up his legal defense. I mean, it's very clear. Yeah. And anybody who doesn't see this, like, I have a bridge to sell you from New Jersey or Brooklyn or whatever.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Hey, let's do this real quick. Let's hit some questions and some super chats real quick, and then we'll kind of move forward. I like to talk more about him leaking for sure. Brian Ledbetter, thank you very much. We appreciate that. This war is not BS. Trump is cutting off Russia, Iran, China coalition before they gain headway. He is ensuring the U.S. remains sovereign and the superpower. And even going back, the biggest look, I think the thing that stands out to us that are clear-minded with Kent is you can go back just a few months ago and you look at his tweets and his statements. They were very aggressive toward Iran. They very clearly identified Iran as the threat. And now we're just kind of switching things up as we go. Just wanted to say thank you, Gary, for all your great content. This is one show I watch every time you're on. Thank you very much. We appreciate that. Imagine hating Israel and the Jews so much that you want Islam to take over your country. Utter traitors. And this is what I'm talking about.
Yes.
This is the common theme that I see with the Ian Carrolls and all of their ilk, is they downplay the threat of Islam. You're worried about PDFs? Like there is no greater institutionalized PDF than Islam, right? That's it. They marry underage girls, and we know what they do with extremely young boys. And it is part of their culture. It's part of their religion, and they have no problems with it. But all these people want to talk about the Epstein files. Like,
right.
Get out of here. Like you mean nothing to me, because you're just a propagandist and nothing more. The woke right is part of the new red, green, brown alliance. The Alexander Duvall wrote about in the early 2000s. I agree with that. Trump has done more than enough to cost the midterms. You're just looking for somewhere to point the fingers. I disagree. Like, Trump has done nothing to cost the midterms. Just like Chase pointed out and Bree pointed out, I've mentioned it. He has done 90% of what he has promised to do. This is not a forever war. He said right at the beginning, going into his election, that he was not going to allow Iran to get a nuclear weapon. That's one of the reasons I voted for him. I mean, that and shutting down the border, securing our borders. He does those two things. I'm all about it. Like, I don't know what else to say. Did you see the X post I forwarded showing the simultaneous messages from Kent Israel statement from his resignation letter. Russian, Iranian propaganda outlets, Tucker, Candace, Megyn, same messaging within seconds. Yeah,
Within seconds. Yep.
I played that. And I'll hit this other one. These woke right losers went from "We are MAGA" to now claiming MAGA is dead after they failed to hijack it is the biggest cope I've ever seen. Couldn't agree more.
That's actually direct quote from Alexander Dugin, by the way. MAGA is dead. America first is dead. So this is complete regurgitation of that talking point, and we'll talk more about that, I'm sure.
Yeah, in the coordinated messaging that is so obvious with all of these people. I mean, it couldn't be more clear. And at the same time, just a couple of weeks ago, they're saying that there's some sort of coordinated messaging. They created an AI email and try to say that it's the anti-Candace folks that are coordinating messaging. These people have been coordinating from day one. When you go back to Candace, it was Candace Owens, Ian Carroll. I mean, you can list a bunch of them. And now we've included into that Tucker Carlson, Megyn Kelly, and many, many more. So it's just continuing. Trump doesn't seem the type to let anyone lead him anywhere. He makes me laugh how he just says it as it is. Wish our politicians had a bit of that. We'll hit some more of your messages and comments, which there's a ton of them, in just a little bit as well. But yeah, I mean, where do we need to go from here, Bree? That's the question.
Well, I think what you're doing, Gary, is an important thing. What we have to do is to try to provide people information for people to inform themselves, to make decisions. I have strayed a bit from what I had originally planned to do with my X account, which was to do just straight on Catherine Herridge style reporting, directly give the evidence and the information to people. But I soon realized that because of the operation, the PSYOPs that are taking place and have been taking place since COVID, we have to be able to break it down even further and to a conversation sometimes to make people even react in such a way to be able to kind of shake them out of the stupor of what I would say, many times, especially with those who have been watching Candace, because I don't really know many men who are going to sit down and watch Candace Ozone. I'm just sorry to have to say.
You'd be surprised. You don't know those men, but you'd be surprised. It's freaking embarrassing.
But it reminds me of, women used to go to the grocery stores and get the tabloids, right? And read the tabloid news, or even worse, like watch some of the shows like Real Housewives or some of the series, the drama series that were on there, those soap operas. This is now soap opera territory, but it's streaming, and people are getting their entertainment value and conspiracy node in their head fulfilled and fed. And so I believe what we have to do is, in order to shake some of those people out of there, hit them with overwhelming amount of support and evidence, and then also humor. And I know that a lot of people are doing that because humor, everything is so serious now. Everything is conspiracy. Everything's serious in the end of the world. And I think Green Beret, you do nap time. that whole moniker that you have is funny enough, and you use that. You use your platform well for that.
Yeah, Chase. That's one of the things that I just talked to you. I sent you a message yesterday, or maybe it was even this morning, where what I want to do with this is not only inform you all, but I want to do what Chase and I were trained to do, and that is, foreign internal defense, and that is mobilize and force multiply. So I think Saturday or Sunday, me and Chase are still kind of working out. We're going to do a subscriber-only space, and we may have Bree on if she's available. I'd love to have her. We'll start doing some subscriber-only, but we'll do other things like this where we're going to identify, the problem, and then hopefully give you guys some things that you can act upon. Right. That's what we need. We need more people like you out there spreading the message. And that could be everything from sharing our content to building your own platform. I'll help you. I'm sure Chase will help you. I'm actually talking to somebody right now where I'm helping them set up their own YouTube channel. I want that. we need more people out there, because right now the left, or whatever you want to call these idiots, they're outworking us. They're out there. They got all day. They're out there fighting the battles down in the comments. They're spreading the message. They're sharing the stuff. Like, we got to get the right and the people on the side of facts and evidence and reality as mobilized as them. That's how we got to make this happen. What's your thoughts, Chase?
Yeah, I mean, it's important to understand that, like, we are facing an op, so we have to kind of attack it in the same way. Now, our operation is going to be to the betterment of the United States and the betterment of America, and to the betterment of the right, the right conservative movement in America. And that's exactly what, like, Charlie Kirk was doing. That's exactly what a bunch of other, there was some other guys on the right doing that, and then they've kind of switched now to this other way, I guess you could say it. But we have to organize. If you don't organize against something, just like if you're a military and you don't train and then engage the enemy in the way that you need to, you're going to lose. So if we don't start engaging the enemy, and we don't start actually putting out the truth and actually putting out our pro-American messaging, which is what everyone that I feel like as an American should be doing anyway, then we're going to end up losing, because people get demoralized very easily. All these people that have, like, turned on Trump, and what's crazy about this is I've never been, like, a big Trump fan. I was always one of the ones, like, criticizing a bunch of stuff, and people like MAGA people would attack me just as much as the left would attack me, especially before Trump was reelected. And now I'm like one of the few that's like, why are you all acting like running around like chickens with your heads cut off, like the world's ending because something didn't happen the exact way that you wanted it to? They're like, we wanted mass deportations. I'm like, well, we would have got more deportations if we would have got funding to do that, but that requires funding, which comes from Congress, and Congress is inept and incapable of doing anything, right? So, it's just all these things. It's just being uninformed makes you make uninformed decisions. And then when you do that and you've made up your mind on something without all of the information, you're going to make a bad decision, like, more times than not. So we do have to get together, and we do have to start talking about these things so that people understand what is real and what is right. And then we can start moving from there, and then we can start bringing people into the fold. And you just, again, awareness is the key at this point.
But Chase, if I could just real quick, Chase made a real good point on this. You both are saying to mobilize. We have midterms coming up. If the Republicans do not keep the majority, the president of the United States and this administration are dead. They're dead on arrival when it comes to policy. They will not be able to do anything to be able to better the country, as the Republicans, who are, maybe rightfully criticizing the administration, want him to do in these things. Like, if you don't have the will to go to the polls when it matters and to ensure that the Republicans may remain the majority, you will see what's happening right now come to fruition every single time a bill is made to be passed. We're just going to see ineptitude rule the day, and we see that with the Democrats, and maybe even worse. Maybe the Democrats will even try to impeach the president, a third time.
They already have articles of impeachment drawn up.
Right.
It's right. Going to happen. And folks, why do you think that as soon as they had the opportunity, they started going after TPUSA? It's right. Because of that. They know that the most powerful conservative get out the vote machine, and the reason that Trump got elected was TPUSA and Charlie Kirk. They killed Charlie Kirk, and as soon as he was gone, they decided they were going to take TPUSA down. And it is very strategic. And you gotta pay attention to all of that, because it's going on. And to Chase's point, look, mass deportations, however you want to define that. Look, deportations are happening by the tens of thousands. They're not happening in Democratic strongholds like Minnesota, but in Texas, Arizona, and many other places, maybe not so much as Arizona, but many of these places where you have state and local law enforcement that are working with ICE together, they're deporting a lot of folks. It's just not making the news. What makes the news is when you have a Democratic governor from the top down, you have these people that are intentionally organizing these protests and are organizing chaos to stop President Trump from doing what he promised to do. And then everybody looks at it and says, oh, look, President Trump isn't following through on what he said. Well, like he can only do so much in places like that. But what you're completely not catching and you're completely dismissing is all the other good work that he's doing in many, many other states and getting things done, like Texas, Louisiana, Mississippi, all of these Republican strongholds where you're just not going to hear about it.
Right. And I think a lot of people also, a lot of these people are, and I'm not going to say everyone, like there's a large swath of MAGA, especially the ones that were like the centrist left-leaning people that kind of joined MAGA just because of the frustration with Joe Biden and Kamala Harris and then that entire administration. So you got a lot of those people that were like, we're coming over to this camp and we're going to do this, but they're populists, right? They don't care about the Constitution. They don't care about the rules and they don't care about what it actually takes to get things done. They just wanted Trump to come in and like do all these things that like legally he actually can't just do on his own, right? You have to have Congress, like a Congress approves the budgets for a reason. It's all checks and balances. Everything's set up that way so that we don't run into something insane where where the government turns tyrannical and we have a dictatorship at some point. Like that's what it's all trying to avoid, is trying to restrain the government from being tyrannical against the people, which is a good thing, right? But they take that and then they take what they don't understand about the Constitution and then use it against Trump to justify why they are not for him. And what it really comes down to is that's a collectivist view of the world. That's like you want authoritarianism to do the things that you want, but guess what? If you give the government that authority over your life, what happens when the people take over that don't agree with you?
Right.
Now they can do whatever they want, and it's all because you wanted immediate results that month instead of waiting for the process to happen the way that it was going to happen.
Well, the same thing goes for people that wanted to see, perp walks the second week of the Trump administration, wanted all these corrupt politicians in handcuffs. Folks, like, do we not have, a rule of law? Like those investigations take time, and they may not happen because the other thing is, as soon as the Biden administration was on the out, like they started covering up their crimes left and right. Now, do we want the Trump administration? Do we want our side to do the same thing that the left does? Do we want like F the law? We're not worried about. We're just going to trump up some charges and charge these people with 34 felonies each and just see if something sticks. Like we gotta stick to the Constitution and we got to do things the right way. And we are seeing some of that, but it's going to take time. And the best way to address those issues is to make sure that we have something like the Trump administration continue on in 2028, so we prevent the corruption. We see the corruption that's taking place in Minnesota. We saw the corruption during the Biden administration. Now we got Nick Shirley uncovering billions of dollars worth of corruption in California, which we all knew was going to be worse. Is that what we want to continue, or do we want to actually have an administration that follows the law, follows the Constitution, does things right? And if your answer is yes to that, guess what? You need to have some patience, and it just takes time. You can't just abandon MAGA just because you're upset.
Right, Gary, one of the things too, you had asked earlier, like what do we do? How do we, because people see the problems, they hear a lot of people talking about the problems, but what are the solutions? And we as military, we're like, here's a problem, here's the mission, here's the solution to the problem, right? And you don't just provide multiple solutions, you provide how you're going to get to that solution, right? To when you brief your chain of command, you let them make a decision how they want to best use their time. In my case, because of my work in journalism and investigative journalism, there are a lot of people who've asked me, how do you sort through all the media? How do you sort through all the news? How do you determine what is fake news, what is not? And especially in this AI age, I mean, it's getting very tough, even for those of us in the professional world, right? Yeah. And so I've decided, I'm working right now on several projects, but starting this Sunday, I'm going to be writing a curriculum for a 4-week, like every day, it will be like about 2-hour class on a weekend for people to come and learn about journalism, learn about how to be a journalist. So young, 18-year-old kids who are interested in going into investigative journalism to start their program, to do what Nick Shirley is doing on the ground. How do you get started? And walk through disinformation and how you're able to determine sourcing. How do you cooperate? The 101 J school program that you would expect from schools that they're not getting anymore. I'm going to try to do a pilot class on this. And the end goal is to try to start launching people into the realm of investigative work. Even if they're going to do it part-time, even if they're going to do it for their own benefit of being able to know what is true and what is false, the disinformation operations have to be hit right where they are finding the fissures in the culture. And that, I think, has to do with the lack of critical thinking, Gary. So I'm hoping that I'll be able to provide at least some of the tools that I've learned through my career to pass that on to people who want to start in this industry. And I have to say, we need a flood of people who are willing to do what Nick Shirley's doing, what I've done, what Catherine Herridge is doing, and others. There's a lot of good work out there.
Well, look, you let me know when you got that. I will promote the hell out of it. I'm sure Chase will
Thanks.
too. Let's hit just a few more super chats, and then we'll see where we're at with all this. Isolationism erodes dollar dominance. Absolutely. Like, we can't. Like, if you think that we can just pull in everybody from all the other countries, you're crazy. What we will be left with is surrounded by red: Chinese, the Russian, and Islam. I mean, can't do it. TPUSA sent a defamation suit to Project Constitution. Supposedly more lawsuits are coming. Where would grifters go if we win midterms in 2028? I'm going to push back on this a little bit, Jenga. As far as I understand, unless something new developed in the last couple hours, that was just a cease and desist order, which
Right.
which Project Constitution responded to. I think I'm hoping that TPUSA is going to start launching some lawsuits. There's the time for accountability has come and gone. And if people aren't made some examples of, this idea that we can put out whatever we want, whenever we want, is going to just take over the internet, and we're not going to be in a better spot. So there's a reason defamation laws exist, and I hope people start taking advantage of them. Breed a badass. I agree. Breed is a badass. Chase is pretty badass too.
Chase is okay.
I'm always arguing with him. I mean, I'm always arguing with him over Candace. He's like, no, Candace has receipts, Gary. I'm telling you.
He's a believer. He loves it.
Dude, words that have never came out of my mouth, that's for sure.
He's like, Gary, if you just watch the full episode.
I heard him say trust the plan the other day. I don't know about that. I didn't trust the plan.
Gary, you just gotta watch the full episode. Just search Q on the accounts that amplify Candace. I think, look, I don't think it's a coincidence that John Mappin, who's a Scientologist, has links to Alexander Dugin, was also a big Q, a huge persona in Q, pushing the whole QAnon thing. That QAnon was an op to basically embarrass and to divide the right. It was successful. I knew some I would go to work and I had a friend of mine, really smart guy, and he's telling me all these Q drops. I'm like, dude, this is the dumbest shit I've ever, are you serious? You really believe it? Got people just wrapped up in this stuff. They thought JFK Jr. was coming back. And John Mappin was one of the people pushing this. And it's not a coincidence that he is now involved with all of this other stuff going on with Candace Owens. So
same with General Flynn. I'm going to just throw that out there.
You were absolutely right. I actually had a bunch of stuff on General Flynn I was going to bring up, but
oh yeah, we need to talk about that. Yeah,
I think we've done a good job framing the big picture. We probably got some other things that we can talk about, but I definitely want to do several more segments on this over the next couple of weeks, talking about some of these key players, what they've done, and how it ties in to everything else that's happening. MAGA and non-MAGA supports Trump by a big percentage. MAGA and non-MAGA. Okay. I know what you're saying. GS70 self. Yeah. I mean, it's like, I think genuinely speaking, we probably have 97.8% of everybody that voted for Trump is still going to be voting for Trump. Well, obviously the midterms, they're going to support his initiatives in the midterms. We'll see, but I think that's generally true. But midterms are lost by small percentages.
Yeah.
And this, I do think if we lose the midterms, which it doesn't take much to lose them, I think that we will almost definitely lose 2028 because they will have 2 years to beat Donald Trump and MAGA apart, saying they've got nothing done. all of us MAGA voters are going to be disillusioned, and we're going to be looking for something else. Okay, MAGA didn't work. They're going to convince you it was defeated. I'll be honest with you. At the end of the last Trump administration, I was like, man, I love Trump, but they did a number on him, and I don't think he's going to be able to come back from that. And luckily, I was wrong. And, you know,
did you see that?
Go ahead.
Did you see that prediction post I did? Just basically, I was like, most dangerous COA for what happens if we lose in 2026 and then potentially lose again in 2028. Did you see that post that I did?
No.
Let me see.
You can bring that up. Let's take a look at it. If you guys aren't following Green Beret Nap Time and X, fix that. Same thing with Bree. I don't know what other socials you guys got, but at the end of this, if you have some more websites or anything else that you'd like me to post, I'll put those down in the description. Hot take from MTX 485. No one in counterterrorism should be targeted enough that they believe Iran had a fatwa so they wouldn't develop. Yeah, like exactly. Like, oh no, guys, they got a fatwa. They said no more terrorism. They said no more nukes. They have a fatwa. What a ridiculous.
That's a great message, by the way. More
really
of those types of targeted assessments.
Iran's Speaker of Parliament admitted it all on video. I actually posted that video. He absolutely does. He talks about how they've been hiding their program, how they've been developing their program. It's on my feed. Maybe I'll pull it up in a minute. Apostate Prophet played the video last night in Farsi. Also pretty sure the FM did too on CBS. As long as Trump is supported by 90% MAGA and over 50% non-MAGA, I am good. LOL. It's driving CNN crazy. I agree.
Those percentages don't add up, but it's cool.
Yeah, that's fine. Just trust the process. Thank you for the support. You're welcome. Ayatollah wrote how-to book on stuff with infants. Yes. So I look. The whole PDF thing is so accepted in Middle East culture that it's not even funny. So if you want to see that, you want to see more of that, come to the United States. Let's continue to immigrate and integrate more Islam. Like, Islam is completely non-compatible with civilized Christian Western society. Why do you think MAGA conservatives, unlike the left, have done a better job of fighting back against its fringe than the Democrats have? Democrats folded like a cheap tent to the socialists. Because we are naturally, we eat our own.
We also serve the truth. We also serve the truth. Like Christians, God-fearing Christians, God-fearing Jews, men of moral character, even those who don't have any belief in God, but believe that truth is, objective versus subjective, are going to serve the truth in that way. We want to serve the truth. It seems to me that the left want to serve feelings and serve, whatever is the ends to justify their means. And that's a problem.
They appeal to emotions. Yeah, they appeal to emotions. That they want what they wish was, as opposed to what is possible. I mean, that really clarifies what socialism and communism is.
The greater good. The greater good is the ultimate goal of collectivism, right? Yeah. They don't get the individual doesn't matter anymore. If you kill 1 million individuals, those were just individuals and they didn't matter, right? The collective, the greater good is what matters. And then you can justify anything.
Yeah, it sounds
noble. Reminds me of that movie, Hot Fuzz. Did you see that movie, Hot Fuzz?
Yes.
Yeah.
It has to do, it's when there's a collective, like in a small town, going the greater good, it's so on the nose.
Yes.
Matt Tardio and Ben Dykes are in the fight with y'all. Good friends with Matt Tardio. He's been on the show plenty of times. I was just texting him the other day. We're going to have him on the show. I think he has a lot to contribute to this. I want to get him linked in with me and Chase and Bree and anybody else that is interested. If you want a voice or you have a voice and you want to start dipping your toe, like, you can come on my show. Let's talk about these issues that you're passionate about, and let's start getting you a little bit more public facing. But I think linking up with guys like Matt and many others out there, not just telling you what's going on, and doing this deep analysis of what's happening, like we need to give you a course of action that's right for you, because it's not the same for everybody, right? Some people just aren't going to get in front of a camera, but you can sure wreck house on X, or you can do Instagram, or TikTok, whatever. What I would say, like writing, like there's a lot of good writers out there, and writing is great, but I will tell you, and I think Chase, you and I talked about this the other day. Yep. If you want to get your message out to 50 people, write a great article. Spend 3 days on a great article. If you want to get your message out to 500,000 people, turn your cell phone on and just talk a little bit, and do one paragraph of that article, post it, and then come back and do another paragraph of that article. Like, that's how this works. And that's the other thing that I think the conservatives aren't really understanding, is they're beating us at this game because they're better at understanding the our environment, right? I mean, that's a soft initiative. Understand your environment, and that's what's going on. They're really good at that, and they have no qualms with that. We sit around, we're like, oh my god, I'm so self-conscious. I don't know how I look, or these retards with blue hair and nose rings will throw the camera on and start talking. And they say the dumbest shit ever, and 500,000 people like their videos and start following them. Mm-hmm. Like, you got to get over it.
Yep.
Thank you very much, Brian, for becoming a member. If you want to support this channel, we'd love if there's a link down in the description below. You can become a member. That helps us small amount per month. Also on X, I bet Bree, do you do subscriptions on X?
I do have subscriptions on X, yes.
And I know Chase does as well. So I do as well. If you want to become a subscriber on X and support us, that's another great thing. It's $3, $4, $5 a month. I don't know what it is, but it's not much.
Yeah.
And it goes a long way. As an independent, I voted Trump for a reason 3 times. Yep. Try and zip through these real quick. Do you think the woke right wants Trump impeached so they can get President Vance, especially since Tucker is very close to Vance? I think at this point, I don't know what their plans are with JD or whoever they plan on appointing. I think at this point, all they want to do is tear down MAGA, and replace it with the Tucker Carlsons, the Joe Kents, and convince everybody that, like, hey, isolationism is important. Iran's not our enemy. Israel is. China's not our enemy. Israel is. Russia's not our enemy. Israel is. And whatever else. And it's going to destroy America. Like, there's nothing more destructive than extreme isolationism. And that's what these people are pushing. I don't know I don't know who's paying them. I don't know what their incentives are. I don't know if this is what they really believe, or, don't know. Don't care. But what I can tell you is we can map out the trajectory of what they're doing. It's very obvious to those that are paying attention, and where that ends up. And it's not a good place.
You're right.
Great discussion tonight. I'm truly thankful to the 3 of you for your service. America first. Yeah, I didn't even know Bree was a vet. Thank you, Bree, for your service.
Thanks.
Any chance for free and fair elections in Iran, or what do you think the future is for them? I really don't give a shit. Well, I won't say that. Look.
Just tell us in the action.
It's not that big of a concern for me. Look, I will say what really hit me in the field, if we're going to appeal to emotions, let's do this. Like the wrestler, I just posted on it yesterday, the wrestler that was just executed because he was allegedly protesting. Man, that's like, there's such extreme human rights violations going on there. And it's not our job to be world police, and I get that. But I would love to see a free Iran, because I would like to see the Iran come back from the 50s, the 60s, the 70s. They had problems there, but they were a much freer and better society than what we see today. And instead of 30,000 protesters being murdered in the streets, we have free and fair elections. That being said, the only thing that I actually care about is they don't have nuclear capabilities. They don't have the ability to strike at distance. That's the only thing that I care about. And if we, assist with a regime change, great. If we don't, then they're just like, we just bomb them back to the Stone Age, and they don't have any capabilities. They have to start from scratch, where, 10 years from now, we just bomb them back to the Stone Age again. I'm fine with that. But, I'm still always skeptical and a little cynical when it comes to any of those things. But what I do know is they're a threat to us now. We diminish their ability to reach out and touch us. They cannot have a nuclear weapon. That's all I care about personally. Super behind, but I love GB and T2, all three of you. And last one I'll hit right here. Ben is a sub-Navy 20-year vet and worked with Pete. Who are we talking about? Ben who? I don't know who that is. I'm assuming Pete Hegseth, but I don't know who the Ben is.
But I don't know who Ben is. 20-year sub nuke.
Oh, that was the other super chat that had Matt Tardio and Ben.
Oh, okay.
Oh, okay. Oh, that would be interesting conversations. Those guys get pretty technical, and they're an interesting group of guys. Lots of D&D that's played down there in the subs world. So,
well, then they start talking about the nuclear triad and how they're so important, and sub guys are the best, and all those things. Like,
yeah, I mean, like, didn't you join the Navy because you watched Hunt for Red October? Yeah, and then you sat on the bottom of the sea for your entire career.
I just want to be at close quarters with a bunch of dudes at all times. That's what I wanted. We know what's happening.
We have jokes for those submariners.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's why the surface Navy, we are known to eat our young. Stab, look, stab. That's what we do in the surface community. 24 hours, 7 days a week. We don't get breaks like you guys in the Army.
No, I agree. So, what, number one, any other thoughts on any of this that you guys want to share? But more importantly, like, what are some things that we can be doing to maximize our efforts and pushing back on this, both us together as creators, and then on top of that, which I hate that term, but also the everyday person out there? What's some things that we could all be doing? Chase, you take it away.
I mean, I think we just need to put the message forward that, like, the sensationalism, the provocateurism that's happening, it's not a word, I just made it up, but guess what? All words are made up, so we're going to go with it. All that we're seeing is what sells, right? Whatever's flashy, whatever's sexy, all that stuff, that sells. What we're selling you is the truth, right? Like, I mean, I just had my baby up here. Like, I want her to grow up in a better world, and, all my children to grow up in a better world than I grew up in. And I grew up in the 90s. Which was awesome and amazing and, like, super low risk. Like, you didn't have to worry about your kids getting trans. You didn't have to worry about all this other stuff that's happening nowadays that you have to actually, be concerned with. And I want them to have that. And so the goal here is to, like, let's put out the real message. What's true. You're not going to walk away from it and be like, oh, that's the craziest thing I've ever heard, because it's true. Like, if you walk away from a message and you're like, that is so insane, there's probably a good chance that it was, like, sensationalized or something. It's not the real message. So I think we have to kind of put that forward and, like, and be blunt about it too. That's why, like, I don't play around with these people, man. Like, you think you're going to scare me with your little words from your keyboard? Like I've been shot at before, like you getting on here and calling me a Zogbot or something, and then being like, I got that, dude. Like you immediately are blocked and gone and out, and you no longer exist in my entire worldview. So it doesn't really matter anyway. So we have to, like, get other people on board with that. Starving the grift is a big thing. And we'll like I try to do mostly screenshots. I'll quote post, like, politicians and people that aren't monetized and aren't, so you can go straight to their stuff and you can, like, interact with them. But for, like, if I'm going to do something from Candace or from Ian or from any of these grifters, I'm generally not going to interact with their posts.
Don't share their posts, folks. Screenshot that, steal their view, and then push that out.
Yeah.
Screenshot it and then do it on your own post, so that, people might still meander over there, but you have to remember, a lot of people are lazy, man. If they can't just click right there and be like, ooh, I want to go see that. They click on it and it's a screenshot. They're like, oh, and they're not going to go give that person more money and more views and more engagements. And so as we start getting this going, if how we'll get instant feedback on our success as well, because their numbers will start dropping, their engagements will start dropping, and it's not going to work the same way for them that it has before. And that's really what we need to start pushing for right there.
I'm going to follow up with Chase, and I'm going to say this. Chase, you grew up in the 90s, and if you recall, like being able to go out on your bike at night, like right as the sunset, right? Like we're drinking out of the hose, we're going on our banana seat bikes, we're playing until the sun goes down, and we didn't have to worry, and we kids didn't, we didn't even consider what could be dangerous other than the van that might say, "Hey kids, we've got candy and puppies inside," right? There wasn't really anything that we were afraid of growing up during that time.
Right.
And I want to say to people right now, have that memory in your mind for a second. When was the last time you experienced that? Because I experienced it recently, and that experience was the lead up to the elections of Donald Trump, where people were proud of their country. They were putting the flags out again. People were going outside after COVID, doing barbecues, meeting their neighbors, engaging in conversation, getting excited, going to Trump rallies, meeting friends in real life. That's going to go away. I have to say, that is going to go away if there's a fissure into MAGA. And we can stop that. And I think one of the ways we stop it is going outside, meeting our friends, engaging with people, getting people excited about voting the midterms, telling them how much Trump has won, what he accomplished within the first 3 months of this administration is I remember just like every day going on to spaces and saying, I cannot catch my breath in reporting and journalism. He is just doing so much. Now, the momentum has tapered off. And I have to say, part of that has to do with legislation. Another part of that is that level of energy, it takes a lot out of you. Okay. Yeah. And Trump's still going, but Americans really need to rally behind. And if you're listening to this right now and you're on social media, use your social media powers, but also go out and meet with the people who are not on the internet. Who are your friends and your neighbors, and get them excited to go out and to vote in the midterms.
Yeah. To kind of tag along with what you said there, one of the things I've talked about on this channel many times is, I grew up I was born in the 80s, so I remember the 80s, right? And I will say that I always feel like when Trump's in office, like that 80s nostalgia, that 80s love for country, that Ronald Reagan-esque atmosphere, that's what I feel again when Trump's in office. And it is an America first. And one of the things I would say too is like we got to get better at, because the left, the woke right, whatever you want to call them, we got to organize and coordinate, because they sure are. And that's one thing that we got to do better. And hopefully this is some of the initial steps of doing that, whether it's with you guys and branching all that stuff out. The other thing for all of you guys out there, like if you're on X especially, don't engage the bots. Most of those people, I see you guys down there in the comments just arguing back and forth. Like they're designed, and that's why I don't do that. They're designed to just tie your time up. That's what they're there to do. And half the time when you look at their profile, you'll see it's like they have 0 followers, it's clearly some sort of sock puppet account. But yeah, the other thing, like I said, the big thing here is our enemies in this country are very organized, they're very deliberate, and they're very good at pushing narratives. The other thing I would say that we need to do a better job of is every time we hear somebody talking about the Epstein files, we start talking about like we're not deporting enough people, all the stuff that Fuentes and Candace Owens and those folks are saying, like hit them back with like 10 things. Keep something bookmarked, like the 10 things that Trump has accomplished, because he's accomplishing a lot. And he's got a lot of stuff done, but it's being completely wiped over with these 1 or 2 things that people are just dissatisfied with. And I think we need to pay a little bit more attention and highlight the positives out there. Gary, don't forget the left is very good at cheating. We've got to get the Save America Act passed.
Yes.
The left is a hive mind too, like the Borg. Couldn't agree more. And strangely, I see these people, whether it's, all the people that we've been talking about, they are working like hand in hand with Democrats and the left. They're saying like their message is indistinguishable from Democrats. And by the way, we don't even hear from the Democrats very often because they're just sitting back watching like they're not attacking Trump all that much like we used to see them. They're just watching Tucker Carlson and all these people attack Trump and MAGA and just sitting by on the sidelines watching and laughing at us. Gal Sharpton's speech at Catholics was pathetic. There's a rotten subculture that's infiltrated the Catholic movement. The American right is getting hit on multiple fronts. I agree.
Cal Sharpton.
Is that Candace? Oh, that's perfect.
That's so well said.
Dr.
I'm
Altoid
feeling that for sure.
Indeed. Any final comments?
I'm just going to say I've been saying for the entire time, because I haven't seen your show before. I have to thank you, Gary, for bringing me on, and I'm a fan now, and I look forward to returning. And also, your wall is awesome, and I want to hear more about your weapons behind there. Look at that, that's beautiful.
That's AI. That's just AI.
Is it? It's AI. It's not real though. That makes me sad in my soul.
People always say that. It is real. See? It's real.
It's beautiful. It's beautiful America right there.
America. Yep.
America.
Absolutely. Chase, what do you got, buddy? Thank you. Bree.
Yeah, just to kind of expand on one point that you're talking about, like, yes, get out there and talk to people and the grassroots effort. So one of the reasons TPUSA was so successful under Charlie Kirk was not just because Charlie Kirk is a great orator and a great debater. He can go on the campus and master. He was a master baiter, but someone's gonna get mad about that. Someone's like, you should have said that.
It's not part of it. Master debater. Everybody knows.
Yeah.
He liked that, by the way.
Yeah. So, but the grassroots effort is actually very important. And then also get involved in your local governance, your local politics, your local school boards. All of those things are very important. Like, I'm planning on homeschooling my children. So, I may not get involved with the school board, but I also, even if I do homeschool them, maybe I will get involved with the school board just because then you have a say, right? So some of these, like, even if you're not in charge of it, if you're on the board, you get to see all the stuff that's coming through for that year, for the follow-on years. You get to see all the different things that they're going to try to push or they're not going to try to push. And then you have a voice then inside of that process. And if you don't join that, you don't have a voice inside of that process. And I understand that not everybody can get involved. Life is life, man. So like some of you, like, you're going to have stuff. You're like, I got to do this. I can't do that. Right. I get it. I'm not involved in my local politics right now because I have brand new babies and, we got a lot of life stuff going on. So eventually I plan on getting involved because it's so important. So if you can get involved and you can push your conservative, your Republican conservative views and push that into your local spaces, that will save, a lot as well, because the federal government, though it is powerful, the Constitution still regulates it a lot. States have a lot of power. Local municipalities have a lot of power. So all those things kind of put together give you some teeth to fight back. And then you have a say in what really affects your everyday life, which is more your local policies and not necessarily the federal stuff that's coming down or doesn't come down. Don't rely on that. Get involved locally, get involved in your state, and make this country a lot better.
That's right. And again, everybody's going to have different skills, knowledge, and abilities, right? So, and just talents. And maybe it's for you that if you want to push back on all the stuff, that's exactly that. Run for a local office, get on the school board, go talk to the school board. Chase is exactly right. Like, local politics matter more than we realize a lot of the times. And that's exactly why, George Soros is funding all of these mayors in smaller cities. He's funding, prosecutors. Like, they understand the game better than we do. And they're working hard and they're putting their money where their mouth is. But we just got to get more coordinated, more organized, and fight fire with what fire, because I don't want to say we're losing, but we could be doing a lot better. And we need every person out there to join in the fight. Well, listen, folks, man, I appreciate, number one, Bree, Chase, thank you so much for coming on. It's been a great show. I'd love to have you guys on as much as you want to. Anytime that you're willing and we're covering a topic that you'd like to jump in on, you're always welcome to come. Jace, we'll definitely link up and talk more about doing some spaces on a more regular basis as well. I think that's a good forum that I've been underutilizing. But look, folks, we appreciate you. Pay attention to what's going on. We got the greatest country on earth, and there's a lot of people that are trying to take that away from us. And we're not going to let it happen. It's as simple as that. But until next time, stay armed, stay ready. We'll talk to you soon.